This breakout presentation was presented at the Eastland State of the Schools event on Thursday, November 9th. The purpose of the presentation was to explain to those present how standards-based grading would be applied in career and technical education courses at Eastland Junior Senior High School. At first, we need to talk about what we mean by career and technical education. Traditionally, these were referred to as vocational courses. And as we know, they refer to the part of education that emphasizes work skills. These typically are courses that are not required, but that students can take in order to gain skills that they might need in the workplace. Career and technical education courses are designed by nature to help people join the workforce for the first time, or maybe for adults to rejoin the workforce, to upgrade their skills in a chosen field, or to move on into a different career. There are two types of career and technical education courses. Survey courses, which are really just general courses that treat the chief topics of a broad field of knowledge. The idea of survey courses is not really to produce an outcome, but to give students an opportunity to explore. We also have what are called articulated courses. Articulated courses are courses that are part of a sequence of courses where specific end-of-course standards have to be mastered in one class before the student can move on to another class, in which they will learn new standards that are necessary for the next class. So why would students take career and technical education courses? There's several good reasons, and all of them are equally legitimate. Perhaps the student just wants to gain knowledge and skills that he or she might need or want to have. Maybe I want to take an auto mechanics class because I just want to know about how to work on my car or how to fix it if it has a problem. I don't want to be a mechanic, but I just want to have some knowledge. Or maybe I'm at a point where I just can't decide what I'm going to do when I grow up, so I'm going to try this course out to see if it might be something that I'm interested in, or maybe if I've got an aptitude for this kind of thing. Maybe I don't know if I want to be an auto mechanic, but maybe I would, so I'm going to try this to find out. And a third reason to take a CTE course is to follow and complete a program of study that will lead to a specific certification or job. In other words, I know I want to be an auto mechanic. My dad was an auto mechanic. I already know a lot about auto mechanics, and I know I'm going to go on and get a degree, and I'm going to probably go on to 2 years of diesel engine school after high school. These would be people who already know what they want to do. All of those are equally valid reasons to take a career and technical education course. However, at Eastland, our goal is that all CTE courses will be designed as part of a sequence of courses that lead to a specific degree, certification, or job. In other words, our feeling is that even though students may take the courses just for exploration purposes or just to try them out, when we design the courses, they should be designed as part of a sequence that leads to an outcome. This is important if we want every course to have the ability to take students to the workforce. So if our goal is to design every career and technical education course so that it leads to a specific workforce outcome, we have to start planning backward from a point in the future. How do we do that? Well, at Eastland and other schools, what we try to do is we try to look at employment projections into the future. Where will the jobs be in our area or in Illinois when our students graduate and start to enter the workforce? And here you can see some examples of what we're talking about. There's all sorts of data to tell us where the jobs are likely to be, so that students know that they're planning and preparing to take a place in the workforce. We know, for example, that in this part of Illinois, agriculture and healthcare are big employers. And also, unlike other parts of the state, manufacturing still continues to be a big employer, especially in the Rockford and the Sauk Valley areas. So we try to make sure that we plan our curriculum to prepare students in these areas where employment will be needed, where there will be job vacancies and the opportunity to earn a good living. And what we see on this chart is that almost all of your vocational classes fit into different industry sectors. And we're proud to say that through our cooperation with the Whiteside Area Career Center and our introductory courses here at Eastland, we are able to give students experiences in all of these career and technical education industry sectors, so that really all of these are avenues that are available to our students for employment purposes. So when you go through Eastland schools, you're going to start with an exploratory course. And actually these are in our 7th and 8th grade levels, and they are required. In other words, we require all of our 7th and 8th grade students to take exploratory career and technical education courses for 9 weeks. And they take 8 of them over 2 years. And the idea is to force all of them to be exposed to different career possibilities to see if there's an area that they would like to pursue more specifically. And when they get into those early high school grades, we have what are called introductory courses. These are usually designed to explore an industry sector in more depth, and they may specialize and help the student start on a career pathway. Secondary courses tend to be those courses at the upper high school levels, maybe the junior year, maybe at Whiteside Area Career Center, where the course specializes in a specific career pathway. And now we're talking about the student is narrowing down and considering actually going into a job in this particular career area. We have our college and career prep courses, also called capstone courses at the high school. And those are courses where the student may earn dual credit or college credit. And then finally, we have work-based learning. For example, with our agriculture classes, the students may participate in a supervised ag experience called an SAE, where they are effectively interning for a possible future job. Here's an example of a course sequence in a career pathway for agriculture, food, and natural resources. And you can see that intro to agriculture class, that would be an exploratory course at the 7th and 8th grade levels. And then when they get into high school, they would start on that Ag 1 or that construction and technology course in that 9th grade year or 10th grade year. And then you can see that the courses really open up, and the student can make a decision to go into, vet tech or horticulture, or eventually to crop and livestock sciences. And so they can begin to specialize in an area of interest and an area where they might like to seek employment in the future. Finally, at the end, they are really ideally working in some kind of internship or supervised experience where they are actually doing the work and learning what it would be like to be on the job full time. So why does this all tie to standards-based learning and grading? Well, in our view, just like all of our other classes, career and technical education courses need to be standards-based so that the students know at all times whether they are mastering the essential skills and standards of a given course. To explain this, let's use a little analogy. Who would you want to pack your parachute? Let's say we offered a career and technical education course on packing parachutes. And we had 3 students take this course, and the 3 students had very different learning trajectories. Student 1 started off and just did an excellent job of packing parachutes without mistake at the beginning. Maybe he or she came in with some background knowledge and already knew a little bit about this. But about halfway or 3/4 through the course, just got tired of it and didn't take great care in packing parachutes and really started to do a pretty poor job. And in some cases, the parachute didn't operate like it was supposed to. That would be student 1. Student 2, on the other hand, is one of these students that has good days and bad days. I mean, some days does a great job of packing parachutes, but on another day, not so good. Maybe not focused and made some mistakes. Student 3 was a little different. She started out very poorly. She'd never packed parachutes before, and almost every time she packed a parachute, at least at the beginning of the course and practically through the first half of the course, the parachute didn't operate properly. It wasn't packed correctly. But as the course went on, she demonstrated clearly and consistently the ability to pack the parachute correctly every time. So we ask again, which one of these students would you want packing your parachute? Student 1, student 2, or student 3? Most people will say student 3. But here's the kicker. In a traditional system of grading, both students 1 and student 2 would have received a passing grade, and student 3 would have failed the course. Because student 1 did so well for so long that when you average those failures at the end of the quarter or end of the course in with the beginning of the course, the student is passing. And student 2 had enough good performances to outweigh all the bad performances. Student 3, on the other hand, did so poorly at the beginning that even with the exceptional work at the end, was unable to raise the average above the passing level. And this is the problem with the traditional system of grading when it comes to career and technical education courses. Let's take this to another area. Let's talk about family and consumer science and baking. Career and technical education courses, just like our academic courses, identify anchor standards and subclaims which the students are supposed to demonstrate a level of proficiency or mastery by the end of the course. So here we have a student product from a family and consumer science course on baking. And so we look at this product. What do we do? What do we give for a grade? In a traditional grading system, is this an A? Is it a C? Is it an F? Did the student fail? Well, in a standards-based system, we have a way to grade this. We have a way to look at this with some precision. We have a standard, and the standard says that the student will illustrate and apply the basics of baking, pastry, and dessert preparation and safety and sanitation in professional and institutional kitchens. And this standard has 3 subclaims or substandards in it that the student is supposed to demonstrate proficiency. And you can see on this particular example that the student actually, with that product in the previous picture, demonstrated proficiency in using the tools and utensils, and demonstrated proficiency in the principles of baking. The student really only struggled with the finishing techniques and the procedures necessary to finish it up, and to do it right, and to create a pie that is desirable, that is a good pie. This one had some bulges on the top, and the crust was burnt, obviously. And so really the student didn't do poorly. The student just failed on one of the substandards. The student was emerging because the pie was baked, it just was overbaked. Now, the nice thing about standards-based grading is we don't need the student to start from scratch and bake a whole new pie because the student's already demonstrated mastery of 2 of the substandards. We just need the student to demonstrate that he or she could finish a pie properly. We could perhaps have them bake a pre-made pie or bake something else and finish it off correctly. That we don't need to repeat the entire pie making process to assess whether the student has relearned and subsequently mastered this skill with which they were struggling when this pie was made. And if they do demonstrate that mastery, we can move that grade from 2 to 3 or 4. Here we have the same type of example for a welding class. Let's say that a student was taking a 1-semester class in welding, and the student had never welded before when the student started the class. And at the end of the first quarter, he was able to produce a weld that looks like this. I'm not a welding expert, but it doesn't look to be a particularly good weld. However, at the end of the second quarter and the end of the course, the student was consistently producing welds like this. What do we do? In a traditional system, we might give the student an F for that first one. It's clearly not a good weld. I wouldn't want to depend on it. And we probably give them an A for the second quarter based on the weld there. And then we would average those 2 things together to give the student a C for a final semester grade in welding. Or we could take a standards-based approach. And we could give the student an honest indicator of where he's at the end of the first quarter, a 2 out of 4. He's emerging. He's shown some ability to run the welding equipment and to produce a weld. It's not a functional weld. It's not a good weld. It's not a safe weld. But he's shown some emerging ability, but definitely is not proficient. However, at the end of the course, based on this final project, the student has mastered welding. And we could give that student a 4 not only for that second quarter, but why not give that student a 4 overall? Because this student is at the level of mastery. And here's another thought. Which one of those grades is the proper grade to give to an employer? Is this student at the end of this course a C welder, or is this student somebody who has mastered welding? Which one of those would more accurately inform the employer who is considering hiring this student for a job welding? So what's the difference between a traditional course and a standards-based course in career and technical education? Well, many of the traditional courses, many of the traditional vocational courses were designed more as survey or standalone courses. And exposure to different types of work was more important than proficiency or mastery. And the courses were always graded in a traditional system, awarding points for different activities and averaging those points together to create a final grade. And the course wasn't always aligned to a specific future outcome. Standards-based career and technical education courses, on the other hand, are always designed as part of a sequence of learning, and proficiency is more important than exposure. The students should leave that course with skills that they did not have before. And their grade should be an accurate reflection of to what level they have demonstrated proficiency of those skills. And the course should always be aligned to a specific future outcome, regardless of whether the student goes there, knowing that if the student took the course and moved on, it would take them to employment. Driver's education is a perfect example of a standards-based technical course. The student starts with some classroom instruction, 9 weeks of the rules of the road and the laws regarding driving a motor vehicle, and then the student also does behind-the-wheel driving with a certified instructor sitting right next to him, and they practice everything that is necessary to safely operate a vehicle. And even after that, the instructor has to give them permission to go to the driver's bureau to take a summative assessment, a driver's test, a written part, and a performance part. And if the student does not demonstrate proficiency on both parts, the student does not get a driver's license. And we can all be thankful for that. We can all be thankful that driver education is standards-based, because we don't give a license to somebody who can't demonstrate proficiency behind the wheel. Now, the neat thing about driver's education is, just like standards-based courses, it doesn't mean if you fail the test that you can never get a license. It just means you need to go practice, and you can come back again and try again. And if you can demonstrate proficiency, you can have a license. So when it comes to career and technical education courses, their natural state is standards-based because they're designed to be getting students ready for the workforce. So when we take a career course and we make it standards-based, we make sure that the course is designed with the end in mind, that the students gain essential knowledge and skills, and that the new competencies they've developed could be used as a basis for future employment. Thank you.